Okay, everybody seems to want to make more money. So in this video, I'm going to share with you how I've made over $10 million online, building 3 online businesses past 7 figures and helping some of the biggest names in the industry do the same. And everything I'm about to share with you in this video about how to make more money, keep more money, multiply more money will not work if you're making emotional decisions. And this particular video isn't going to be specifically about the mentality or the management of emotions, but as Warren Buffett said, if you can't manage your emotions, you can't manage money. And so if you want to be able to manage and control your emotions better, you can get my 7-Figure Mind Method book. It's about how to clear your mind of all of the emotional shit that makes us make dumb moves, both in life and business. So let's dive into some stuff about money that maybe you haven't heard, maybe you have, maybe this will be a great reminder for you. I don't know. But if it's valuable for you, hit the like button, subscribe, all that good stuff. So money is a game, and a game, if you're going to win it, requires a scoreboard. And if you don't know the score, you can't tell if you're winning, if you're losing, if it's tied, how much time is left in the game, all that stuff. So we need a complete scoreboard is point one. So we give our clients what we call our Teddy tracking system, and it combines business KPIs and financial tracking to make sure that you have all of the numbers that are required to make decisions based on data so that you can make objective, sound decisions. And so I don't care if you use our stuff, I don't care what you use, but if you don't have the ability to see how much money is coming into your life, how much money is going out of your life, what your current net worth is, whether it's going up, whether it's going down, the ability to compare past time periods, the ability to take that math and extrapolate it forward in a way that says, well, if I keep doing what I'm doing right now, where will I end up in 1 month, 6 months, 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, and ultimately exit the game. And so the game of money, at least as I see it, starts with a number that we take our clients through this process. It's called the freedom number. And that is the dollar amount of liquid wealth that you need, meaning readily convertible into cash. And that's like stocks, crypto, stuff that you could go into a portal, click a button, and liquidate it so that you can pay for stuff. Your freedom number is the amount of money, liquidity, that you need so that you can draw down 4% on that per year. And if it grows on average at 8% per year, which it would if you were dollar cost averaging both index funds and probably crypto, you want to be able to draw down on that and still fund your ideal lifestyle. So you want to price out how much does it cost to live how I want to live. If you want to fly first class, how often? What's the average first class ticket price? What do the hotels cost? What are the places that you want to live? The cars that you want to drive? If you have not priced all of that out, you first of all need to do that. And then you're going to come up with a number of, on average, what it's going to cost per month to live your ideal lifestyle. Mine's around $80,000 a month. Currently, our existing lifestyle is around $30,000 a month, and that includes everything that is kind of like our day-to-day basic stuff, our house, our cars, our nanny, our food, all that stuff. All right, so it looks like we're continuing this one outside because I got kicked out of my dining room. So we need to price out ideal lifestyle. And this is probably going to take a little bit of time for you. That's totally required. And this is the only way that you can quote unquote manifest anything is by knowing how much it costs and then having an actual strategic plan to get there. I've talked about the difference between wanting something and having the intention to get something. And if you have not priced out the thing that you want and don't have an actual concrete reverse engineered plan on how to get it, you will not manifest it. You will not get it. So that's number one. And then you need to have an understanding of how to allocate your income so that you can responsibly get what it is that you want. But before you even do that, we need to establish a baseline of how much money is coming in and going out right now. And that's why we need to set up tracking. And so we use a platform called Monarch. I'll leave a link for it in the description. And long story short, you want to set up a Monarch account so that you can understand what's coming in and out of your business, what's coming in and out of your personal. And we'll get to that in just a couple minutes. But you need a complete scoreboard of your money and your business. You need to know how to read it and you need to know how to make decisions with it. If you do not have those things, you are kidding yourself if you want to actually make more money and live the lifestyle that you want. You also need to get your credit right. So whatever you need to do to repair credit, I'm not the credit repair guy, but you need to have the ability to use other people's money, not just your own money. And as a reminder here, we're shooting for gradual growth. We're not shooting for huge windfalls in terms of our wealth accumulation, our money making. We're looking for month over month, 10, 15% growth. I'm totally cool with that because things die as fast as they grow. So if you're growing your business really, really fast, that's cool for now. But I've also seen that type of velocity create a lot of problems. And I'm reading from a document here that's all the different points of having a high financial IQ. As Robert Kiyosaki said, money without financial IQ is money soon gone. And the only reason that I know any of this stuff is because I had a terrible financial IQ for a very long time. And I realized that after actually reading Robert Kiyosaki's Cash Flow Quadrant book, as well as his Raise Your Financial IQ book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And it really got me to dig in on raising my financial IQ. So the next point on raising financial IQ, we know our numbers, we got our credit right, we've priced out our ideal lifestyle, we've reverse engineered it, and now we want to understand what are the specific targets that we need to hit in our business in order to get what we want out of our finances, out of our business, use our business as our lifestyle vehicle. We need to understand that the game is not about how much money you make, it's about what you do with what you make. It's the reason why my net worth is much greater than a lot of people that I know that have collected a lot more than $10 million in cash, is because I have followed a very specific set of rules on what to do with that cash, whereas most people just kind of emotionally make money decisions, and that leads to them having surprise tax bills, not being able to afford stuff that they want to do, putting it on credit, trying to fight their way out of credit card debt. And so in general, we want to live on, or at least move our way towards living on half of what we actually make. So if our business does $50,000 in a month in terms of cash collected and our profit margin's 50%, we have $25,000 in profit. Now, if I have an effective tax rate of about 30%, now we have to take off about $8,000 of that, and we're left with $16,000-ish to live on, right? And so the reality is, if you have, in that case, a $50,000 a month business, your actual take-home income in this example is going to be $16,000. So if your living expenses are $8,000, now you can take $8,000, live off of it, which is, I mean, okay in terms of like living a decent lifestyle these days anyway, with inflation and stuff. But you want to take $8,000 of that and you want to put it in a brokerage account. And I personally split it between brokerage accounts and crypto accounts. So I have 3 actively managed brokerage accounts, actually 4. 3 of them are professionally managed, and the 4th one is managed by me. And I have basically 80% of what I put aside every single month go into basically stocks, bonds, and stuff like that. And then I have 20% of that goes into crypto. This is not investment advice. This is just what I'm doing in terms of like pieces of the pie of every dollar that comes in. And then I'll live on the other half. So I will make sure that I automate as well those financial investments, because if you leave it to how you feel about how things are doing, you will not transfer funds to your investment accounts. You just won't do it. I had a client that started doing this, started his automated investments. And this was a client that was doing multiple 6 figures a month in terms of top line revenue, but his net worth wasn't growing because he didn't have automated investments set up. And for the first year of us working together, he had this fully automated, and he was putting a large sum every single month on autopilot into these investment accounts, and his net worth was growing as a result. And then he got to a point to where he stopped doing that because he had just some personal belief that, he came up with. I wasn't made aware of this. And so it got to a point to where he's like, yeah, I'm hurting for cash flow basically. And I'm just like, well, are you still, automating your investments? Are you still doing this? Are you still doing that? And he's like, no, I stopped automating my investments. And I'm just like, well, why did you stop doing that? And he's like, oh man, I just, I don't believe in automated investing. And I'm just like, okay, that's cool. But also it's caused the problem that you're in currently. So I have another client who doing much less in top line, only like $30,000 a month, but he stuck with his automated investing. And over the last 3 years, he's gone from basically a zero net worth to about $250,000 net worth, never really doing more than like $30,000 or $40,000 a month in his business, but his business is profitable and he just allocates every dollar and puts every dollar to work and makes sure he has that buffer left over, lives on half of what his actual take-home income is, invests the other half, and he's sitting there with no stress at all. I have another client of mine who recently officially became a liquid millionaire because of this, and he started this 4 years ago when he first became a client. His business has grown and grown and grown and grown and grown. Therefore, his take-home has grown, but he's kept his living expenses basically the same to a degree, which I'll touch on in a second, when to raise your lifestyle. And on his investment side, that has grown to a 7-figure liquid investment portfolio, simply because we set this stuff on autopilot, whereas before he was just spending and hoping that he could sell his way rich. And that's certainly part of it. You got to have the income, but you know what to do with the income. Otherwise, you'll collect a bunch of money and then you'll wonder why you don't have much left over. It's very simple stuff. Very, very simple stuff. And so going back to how do we know when to increase our lifestyle, the general rule that I've learned that has served me quite well is if you want to raise your lifestyle expenses by $1,000 a month, then you raise your automatic investment $1,000 a month. That's basically, if you just do that, you can pretty much scale your lifestyle as high as you want, and you can do it responsibly. So kind of the income allocation rules here are pay yourself first, at least 10%, ideally up to 50. Heck, if you can get to 80, 90%, you're good. Do that right now. Set up an automated investment from your personal checking account to a brokerage account and auto buy at least starting S&P 500 index funds. If you do that and just put it on auto buy every couple weeks, I do bi-weekly, it grows much faster than you think. And then every 90 days, you set an alarm to basically raise your contribution to that by 10%. And so this is kind of the pay yourself first concept. Then you just want to live on the rest and then increase your savings by 10% every 3 months and then target 50% of your income being invested every single month. If you do that, your wealth just grows. And then just you don't touch that wealth. You don't draw down on it. You let it grow and compound, and you start taking advantage of compound interest. And so when it comes to actually paying for things, we want to never sacrifice your liquidity as long as a viable alternative exists. So I'd rather not take my cash or my liquidity to pay for something. I'm going to use, this is why it's important to have good credit, I'm going to use credit if possible so that I can, if I'm paying 3%, 5%, whatever interest rate on something, if I can put my capital to work and get more than 5% somewhere else, like in my business, in my investment portfolio, in my crypto portfolio, then I'm going to do that, and I'm going to keep my liquid options today, versus many people are like, oh, I don't want any debt, so they sacrifice all of their liquidity to, let's say, put a down payment on a house, and then they have no money left over, but now they have a house. Like, that's great, but you have so many less options. One of the guys that works for me actually was considering buying a house, and he was going to put like $100,000 down on it or something like that. This was years ago, and he had like $120,000 liquid, and that was it. And I'm just like, basically, don't do that. He didn't do that. Long story short, we actually found a better opportunity for him to use a first-time home buyer type of a credit, where it was like 3.5% down on a different house, and now he was only taking whatever it was out of pocket. I don't remember exactly the price of the house, but he was using that, and then that allowed him to keep the majority of his liquidity and then grow his investment portfolio, be able to fund his life and his business and buy this house because his capital was better used elsewhere. And so I have personally no problem using credit as long as my liquidity that I'm saving as a result of using that credit is being put to work somewhere else that is giving me a higher return. So I want to use other people's money as much as possible, and we want to aim for just gradual lifestyle growth over time. There's a thing when you buy, so I have an Audi R8, which cost me $140,000. I didn't start there though. And in fact, when you start studying basically how to buy like an exotic car, you find out that you can only get a loan to buy a car that is no more than about 50% of your previous largest loan. So the first car that I got was just a Corvette. It cost like 50 grand. And so then you have to move up from a $50,000 price point to, you can only go about 50% above that in terms of if you're financing the car for your next car. And so you do this because the banks want to see that you are basically responsible with the money that you currently have. And so you need basically like a year's worth of payment history on the $50,000 car. Then you can move up to like a $75,000 or an $80,000 car. Then you can move up to like a $110,000 car. Then you can move up to like a $150,000 car, then a $200,000 car. And again, this is if you just go through the banks. You can always, of course, pay cash or whatever. I'm just saying if you want to keep as much cash as you possibly can and still buy nice stuff, that's basically kind of like the graduation cycle, which it's good that they implement that because it's a good practice of gradually increasing your lifestyle. And so you want to gradually grow your business that 10 to 15% a month over month, and we can increase our lifestyle the same as long as we increase our investments and our lifestyle expenses at the same time. All right, well, it looks like the camera overheated and we have to finish this one up in the office, which is currently a mess. I just set up the camera here and didn't take the time to do any lighting. So the daily process, if you go right now and you set up a Monarch account, you want to first make sure that your business accounts and your personal accounts are separate. So your business credit cards and your personal credit cards are separate, but you link them all to Monarch, and you set up a rule in Monarch where everything that comes in or out through a business account gets tagged as business. And then there's a whole separate margin, which I'll probably do a separate video on this, but there's the business margin that I call the IRS margin, and then there's the performance margin, and then there's your whole life margin. So your whole life margin is like, here's how you get rich on a bumper sticker: spend less than you earn and invest the difference. And so in the case of the $50,000 a month example, netting 16 after tax, living on 8, investing 8. The difference that we're investing is 8, right? And so you can put that $8,000 into a compound interest calculator and see, if I just keep investing $8,000 a month for the next however many years, here's where I'll be in terms of liquidity. And this is how we help our clients reverse engineer where they're going to be in so many years. And if they're like, holy shit, that's going to take way longer than I thought, then we need to do one of two things. We need to reduce expenses or grow the business, ideally both, right? So you want to make sure that you're tracking all three of these margins. Now, Monarch is going to share with you what your savings percentage is after all expenses. So all income, all expenses, what's left over. But we want to be able to filter that to see what is just the business, like what I call your IRS margin. What does the IRS know or aware of? So like when you write off stuff that isn't necessarily directly business performance related, like for example, if you buy a vehicle, right, and you use the 6,000 pound rule or whatever, stuff like that, that isn't like directly related to an operational expense from like a normal perspective, or a client acquisition expense from a normal perspective. So we want to know, what is it that the IRS thinks our profit margin is, and then what is it that like is actually our performance margin. And so we want to tag for performance as well. And so these are things like that are directly related to the performance of the business, like ad spend, payroll, software expense, anything that's directly an expense to the business that directly affects the business's performance. And so there's 3 margins that we track. So when you see people flexing online of like, oh, I have this big margin, they might be telling you their performance margin, and they also might be modifying that performance margin, where it's like, how much money did you make? And then how much was your taxable income, which is the IRS margin. Then on your life plan, it's like how much is left over after everything. So what I do is I still manually, to this day, because it forces me to look at my transactions, I manually go in and I tag the ones that are performance related. And it's easy. You can just like edit multiple, and then you just select, like scroll down the newest transactions from the last 24 to 48 hours, and you can just bulk edit them and add a performance tag. And then when you go in the reporting, you can go and you can filter by what are my expenses and income performance related only. By the way, you want to use the performance tag for all business income as well, so that you can then filter in your reporting section of like, I just want to see what's my performance of the business. Then I want to see what's the business as a whole, like my IRS margin. And then if you remove all filters, you can see your whole life margin. And so now you can start playing with, oh shit, we need to reduce these expenses over here. We can increase this margin over here if we just remove that. And you now have, you're in the game now. Like if you're not doing this, if you're not tracking your finances, you're not even in the financial game yet. So you have to have this set up. And so that's the process. It's very, very straightforward. We help our clients set that up. And then it becomes a matter of how do we make the business create more of a performance margin so that we have more to work with, so that we can then look at what do we want our actual expenses to be that we expense to the business. And then we look at what are we spending money on that maybe we shouldn't in our personal lives or what have you. And now we can actually start to understand what levers to pull to win the financial game. And then on an ongoing basis, we take those numbers, and what our Teddy system actually does is extrapolates this out and says, if I keep doing what I'm doing today, here's where I'll be in this period of time, that period of time, that period of time. And we can actually track the progress from where we are right now to where we want to go, and that is our freedom number. Like for example, mine is $25 million liquid. I'm not there yet, but I within the next 10 to 12 years should be. And that's just if I keep doing what I'm doing, living how I'm living, I will be able to both live my ideal lifestyle now and be able to live my ideal lifestyle on an ongoing basis, even if my business shits the bed. So that's like the main goal that my clients and I all kind of are shooting towards. And so now we need a way to see how are we on pace to hitting that? Are we not on pace to hitting that? If we're not on pace, we can either change the goal or change our behavior. And so this allows you to really, really understand your financial picture. And to be honest, like if you're trying to get rich and you don't have this in place, you might, make some money. I know a lot of people who have made money, like millions and millions of dollars. They don't have much left to show for it, and they don't really have a reason for it. They don't really have an organization structure for it. And so they end up squandering it away, buying cars or buying trips or whatever, and just not being disciplined with it. And it's not that hard once you have it set up. And I'll be honest with you, like it's really challenging to get people to set it up because people in general are averse to numbers, and they know the situation is bad, yet they just want to avoid reality, which is why we need to eliminate those blocks so that we can look at objective reality without freaking the fuck out or feeling so guilty that, we don't do anything with that information and we just kind of die a slow death that way. So it's kind of in general, like the main financial structure. It's first we have to set it up. We got to know where our money's going, where it's coming from. We have to allocate the correct percentages of it, and we have to project forward and know, just like a GPS system, we plug in the destination. So we got to calculate your destination, and then it's going to reverse engineer. Here's what we got to do to get there, and then we're actually in the game. And so that's how we actually have our clients have control over their finances, over their business game, and they're focused more on long-term thinking rather than short-term quick hits and quick wins. Because rich people think long-term, poor people think short-term. So think about it this way. A homeless person is just thinking short-term, how can I get my next meal? Rich people like an Elon Musk is thinking, how can I colonize Mars over the next 1,000 years, even beyond me, right? So somewhere on that spectrum is you and me, right? And so the longer term that you're thinking, the richer you're going to get. The shorter term that you're thinking, the poorer that you're going to stay. And so the only way to think long term is to map it all out. And this is the structure that me and my clients use to map it all out, so they can at least see, although it might be initially painful or at the very least slightly annoying, they'll be able to map out exactly what needs to be done. And then it becomes a matter of getting organized and getting your mind right so that you can actually execute on what needs to be done and organize and automate all of the things so you can free up your time so that you don't have to be bogged down in the business, working in the business instead of on the business all the time. And when you do those things, it becomes mathematically impossible to not hit financial goals. If you know exactly what to do to hit a goal, now it just becomes a matter of executing and doing it, as long as you don't emotionally get in your own way and feel some type of way about stuff, which is why this is like one of the 3 pieces of the puzzle. So we have to get clear our mind. We have to build wealth by setting up our financial systems, and we got to free up our time by automating all of the things in our business and cutting all of the fat and plugging all of the holes. And then from there, it's just data-driven decision making. And as long as the data says, hey, do this thing, and our mind doesn't go, no, I feel like that's uncomfortable. As long as we actually do what the data says to do, it's pretty much impossible not to grow. So hopefully some of those insights were valuable for you. I know it was kind of scattershot, and I've had to film in 3 different locations today, but wanted to get this done and out to you. So let me know what you think in the comments. Grab a copy of this book if you want to learn more about how we install this system inside of our clients' businesses and help them. You know, our boardroom members are on average doing about 153K a month. And, you know, it's a really sophisticated group of individuals that are serious about taking this game and taking their lives to the next level. Just find me on Instagram, DM me the word bulletproof. I have a little automation that'll send you all the details on how that works. I have no setters or closers in there. I like to keep it, you know, I like to personally vet everyone who joins the boardroom. So if that sounds interesting to you, DM me the word bulletproof, or just watch the video that YouTube has served up for you right here, and I'll see you in the next one.